wise old owl sat in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Why can't we all be like that wise bird?
Kicking things off with the nursery rhyme, huh? I have to say, that takes me back, but I'm guessing there's a reason for it.
There is. You know, that rhyme used to drive me crazy when I was a kid. It just felt like another way for adults to say, hey, be quiet.
Right. Kids should be seen and not heard.
Exactly. But now, well, now it lands a little differently. We're just bombarded, aren't we? Everything is a notification of paying a hot take. It feels like if you're not constantly talking or posting or transmitting, you might as well be invisible.
Oh, absolutely. It's this deep-seated cultural idea that your value is tied to your output. And output is, talking, directing, having an opinion. If you're the one who's quiet in a meeting, the assumption is you're not engaged. Or you have nothing to add.
If you're not talking, you're not working. But all the sources we're digging into today, they suggest that's not just wrong, it's completely backward.
It's the exact opposite of how high performers actually operate.
So that's the theme for this deep dive, the sort of counterintuitive power of silence, of pausing, of shifting from transmit to receive. And I want to be really clear with you, our listener. We're not just talking about, mindfulness or meditation, though we will get to that.
Right. This isn't just about being calm. It's about being effective. This is silence as a strategic tool for leadership, for creativity, for just getting things done.
And to really get our heads around it, we're not starting in a boardroom. We're starting with a photographer. This part of the research really surprised me.
Yeah, Sam Abel. The name might not be, a household name for everyone, but in the world of photography, he's a giant.
Yeah, National Geographic guy.
33 years with National Geographic. 2 of his photos are in their 50 Greatest Photographs exhibit. I mean, the man is a master of the craft.
Okay, so connect the dots for me. What on earth can a nature photographer teach us about, say, running a team meeting?
Well, let's think about how most of us take a picture. You and I, we're on vacation, we see something interesting, say, a street performer. What's our first instinct?
I grab my phone, I run over, I zoom in. I'm chasing the action. I'm trying to capture the performer.
Exactly. You focus on the subject, the foreground. You hunt it. Abel calls that front layer photography. But that's not what he does. He describes himself as a from-the-back layer photographer.
Okay, what does that actually look like?
It means he starts by ignoring the main event completely. He'll find a location, maybe it's an interesting doorway with peeling paint, or a beautiful, misty landscape. He composes the background first. He sets the stage.
See, he's got a perfectly framed photo of an empty doorway. That sounds kind of boring.
It is boring, for a while, but that's only part one of his technique. The full mantra is compose and wait.
And wait. Just wait.
He waits. He will literally hold that perfectly composed frame, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. He waits for the dynamic element, for life, to enter his stage. He'll wait for a sailor to walk by and toss a rope, or a bison to wander into that one perfect patch of sunlight.
That feels so passive. My anxiety would be through the roof. I'd feel like I was missing everything else that was happening.
And that's because we're addicted to action. We think we have to force the outcome. But Abel has this fantastic quote. He says, "Let the rope come to you. You don't chase the cow around with a flailing lasso. You create the loop, you hold it ready, and you wait for the precise moment."
Let the rope come to you. I like that. It's a really powerful image.
It's everything, because if you chase the subject, you get a frantic, blurry photo. But if you have the patience to compose the background and wait, the moment that arrives is always richer, more complex, and more beautiful than anything you could have hunted down.
So our mission today for this deep dive isn't really about photography. It's about taking that compose and wait idea and applying it to leadership, to creativity, to just how we talk to each other every day.
Exactly. How do we create the conditions for insight to find us instead of us constantly chasing it?
Because right now, most of us are chasing. We're chasing the sale, chasing the answer in a meeting, forcing the solution. We are, as the source calls it, stuck in transmission mode.
It's our default setting.
Transmission mode. It sounds like a car setting.
It might as well be.
Yeah.
It's the default for most people in positions of authority leaders, teachers, even parents. There's this incredible pressure to be the one broadcasting information all the time.
I feel that 100%. If I'm leading a project and there's silence, it feels like I've failed. I feel this pull to fill the void, to provide the direction, to have the answers.
That's the trap. There's a really classic example of this with A.G. Lafley.
Oh yeah, the former CEO of Procter & Gamble. the P&G guy.
Right. Hugely successful leader. But he had this philosophy that his job was to keep the company's strategy, Sesame Street, simple. His words. He believed his primary function was to just repeat the main message over and over and over again.
Okay, but hang on, I can kind of see the logic there. You need alignment, right? You need everyone pulling in the same direction. If the person at the top isn't crystal clear, you get chaos. So isn't that good leadership?
It's good for clarity, yes. But there's a huge hidden cost to being a perpetual broadcast tower. If your transmitter is always on, it means your receiver is off. You're just filling the airwaves with your own voice.
So you're drowning out any signal trying to come back to you.
Precisely. You block out what you don't know you don't know. You can't hear the whispers of dissent. You can't hear the quiet person in the corner who sees the giant flaw in your Sesame Street simple plan.
You know, this makes me think of that story from the research. The one about the Jamaican bonfire.
Oh, this is a perfect illustration. It's from Linda Cureton.
She was the CIO for NASA, a very serious job.
Exactly. A person who deals with incredibly complex systems and life or death risks. But this story isn't about a space launch. It's about a simple family vacation.
Which makes it so much more relatable, I think.
Totally. So Linda's on vacation in Jamaica with her whole family. Her brother, who she kind of jokingly calls the self-appointed leader, gets this big idea. He meets a local guy who says he can set up this epic bonfire on the beach that night. Music, food, the works, $20 a person.
And the brother is all in. He's got the vision.
He is completely sold. He's in paradise. He wants to create this amazing memory. So what does he do? He immediately shifts into transmission mode.
He starts pitching it. Hard.
He doesn't just pitch it. He gathers everyone at breakfast and basically announces it as a fact. He's not saying, hey guys, what do you think of this? He's saying, I've found the most incredible thing for us to do tonight. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
He's just broadcasting his own enthusiasm everywhere.
And he makes the classic mistake. He assumes that because he's excited, everyone else must be too. He just kind of steamrolls the entire conversation.
So what happens when he actually tries to make it happen?
Well, later that day, he goes around, wallet out, ready to collect the $20 from each family member. And it's a total failure.
No one wants to do.
Not a single person. They all have these vague excuses. Oh, I'm a little tired, maybe some other time.
And he's got to be just confused and deflated. He's thinking, why didn't you say something this morning? I've been planning this all day.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. The real reason they all said no.
It wasn't the money.
Not at all. It was common sense. First, it was August in Jamaica. It was incredibly hot and humid. The last thing anyone wanted to do was sit next to a giant blazing fire.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And second, it was really windy that day. People were quietly thinking, are you crazy? A bonfire on a windy beach next to a bunch of huts with thatched roofs? We're going to burn the whole resort down.
So they had legitimate comfort and safety concerns, big ones. Why on earth didn't anyone just say that at breakfast?
Because the brother's transmission didn't leave any room for it.
But he wasn't being a dictator, was he? He didn't say, you will come to my bonfire.
And this is the critical part. He silenced them with enthusiasm. His vibe was so strong, his transmission was so loud. This is a great idea, and I'm so excited that it sent a subtle, unspoken message. If you disagree with this, you are not a team player. You are raining on my parade.
Wow. That's insidious. Because he probably thought he was being a great, energetic leader.
Of course he did. But he was so blinded by his own broadcast that he couldn't receive the most basic, practical feedback. Linda Cureton calls this dead wrong behavior. It's the subtle ways we shut people down without even realizing it.
I feel personally attacked by this story. I know I do this. I get an idea I love, and I try to get everyone on board with pure energy. I thought that was persuasion.
It can be, but it can also be a silencer.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic quote from Nick Baton. He's the CEO of the fashion company ASOS. He says, if I find myself doing too much telling, I'm normally doing the wrong thing.
If I'm telling I'm doing the wrong thing, that seems a bit extreme. I mean, sometimes a leader has to just tell people the plan.
Sure, for basic execution. But for anything that requires buy-in or creativity or problem-solving, his point is that leadership is more about extraction than instruction. If you're always the one telling, you're never learning. You're operating on an incomplete data set your own.
So step one in this whole process is to just stop talking so much.
Or at least turn down the volume on your own transmitter.
Okay, so if I stop transmitting, the obvious next step is listening. But the sources here are really specific. This isn't about just nodding politely while you wait for your turn to talk.
No, absolutely not. This is about what they call clicked-in listening. It's active. It's intense.
And the main example for this is Steve Jobs, which I've got to admit seems counterintuitive. I mean, the popular image of Steve Jobs is the guy who's yelling at engineers, who has this reality distortion field. He seems like the ultimate transmitter.
He was definitely not a simple person. He could be brutal, but the people who were closest to him described this other mode he had. A friend of his, Michael Hawley, tells the story about how he eloped, got married very quietly.
Okay.
And he said that Steve Jobs was the only one of his friends who even noticed.
How is that possible?
Hawley said that when Jobs decided to focus on you, it was like a laser beam. He could click in and give you 100% of his attention so intensely that it felt like you were the only person in the world.
So he wasn't just waiting to talk. He was absorbing.
Exactly. There's another great story from an animator at Pixar, Andrew Gordon. He gets into an elevator with Jobs, and this is primetime Jobs. He's running Apple and Pixar. He's in the middle of developing the iPod. The man is busy.
That's a high-pressure elevator ride.
You can imagine. Gordon's probably just hoping not to say something stupid. But in the time it took to go a few floors, Jobs had managed to extract Gordon's entire life story in music. Who he listened to, how he bought music, what devices he used, what he loved, what he hated.
In a 1-minute elevator ride.
Yes, because Jobs wasn't making small talk. He was hunting for data. He was using every single human interaction as a chance to test his theories for the iPod. For him, listening was an active, almost aggressive search for information.
We think of listening as this soft, passive skill. But you're describing it as a power tool.
That's a great way to put it. He made you feel like the center of his universe, and in doing so, he learned things that a normal, polite conversation would never reveal.
This idea of aggressive silence also comes up with Mark Benioff, right, the founder of Salesforce. He has this move called the Benioff pause.
Oh, this is such a power move. It takes a lot of nerve to pull off.
So the story is, an interviewer asks him a pretty standard question. How do you find breakthrough ideas? And Benioff's entire answer is one word: listen.
Just the one word.
And then silence.
Dead silence. He just stops talking and stares at the interviewer.
That makes my palms sweat just thinking about it. In a normal conversation, that kind of silence is just excruciatingly awkward.
It is. The interviewer even writes about his own panic. His immediate instinct was to just jump in, fill the space, and ask the next question on his list. Great, thanks. Next question.
Because we're all conditioned to believe that silence means something has gone wrong.
Exactly. But Benioff just held that silence. He composed the frame and waited. He forced the interviewer to actually sit with that one-word answer, to really think about what listen means.
It wasn't just an answer, it was a live demonstration.
It was the lesson itself. The silence was the point. He created a vacuum that forced the other person to slow down and actually process the information instead of just moving on to the next item on their agenda.
And I know I do the opposite. In a meeting, if I ask for ideas and I don't get a response in like 3 seconds, I jump in and offer my own idea.
Anyone have any thoughts? No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's what I was thinking.
Every single time. I think I'm helping them by ending the awkwardness.
But you're really just helping yourself. And you're robbing the group of the chance to formulate a thought that might be better than yours.
Ouch. Okay. That one hits home. So effective listening means being willing to endure the awkwardness. But it also means you have to get out of your own way. There's this case study about an intern at Nike, Maggie Dupree, that feels like the perfect example of this.
Yes, this is such a critical story about the danger of being in love with your own solution.
So Maggie's a smart, driven intern. She sees that Nike's retail stores are using these old, wasteful light fixtures. She does her homework, she runs all the numbers.
She builds the spreadsheet.
And her spreadsheet proves that if they switch to new, energy-efficient fixtures, the money they save on electricity will pay for the new lights within 5 years. It saves money, it's good for the environment. It seems like a total no-brainer.
It's a slam dunk. In her mind, the logic is irrefutable.
So she gives her big meeting with a VP. She goes in, probably transmitting her brilliant idea at full volume, shows him the spreadsheet, the ROI, everything.
And the VP just listens politely and says no.
And when I first read that, my gut reaction was, what a dinosaur. You know, who says no to saving money and being green?
Yeah. Right. It seems crazy. But this is where we have to stop transmitting our own assumptions and listen to the VP's context. He wasn't thinking about the utility bill. He was thinking about something called retail science.
Retail science? That sounds a little jargony.
It's the whole psychology of how a store's environment makes you feel and how that feeling drives you to buy things. The VP explained that lighting isn't just about seeing the products, it's about emotion.
Okay.
Those energy-efficient bulbs she was proposing, they might cast a slightly cooler, bluer light, and if the light is even a little bit blue, the sneakers on the wall might look cold.
And if the sneakers look cold, they don't look
I
cool.
don't have that must-have glow.
Hmm.
And he said if sales drop by even 0.5% because the store feels more like a hospital than a cool hangout, that lost revenue would wipe out decades of electricity savings.
Oh, okay. I did not see that coming.
And that wasn't all. He also pointed out that Nike completely redesigns its store concepts every 2 or 3 years to stay on trend. So her 5-year payback plan for the lights was useless. They'd probably be ripped out and thrown away in year 3.
So she was solving for her metric, which was cost savings, but he was solving for his metrics, which were brand image and sales per square foot.
She was making her case. She wasn't making the business's case.
So if she had gone in there using the compose and wait method, if she had started by asking questions.
If she'd asked, what's the #1 priority for in-store experience right now? Or how are you thinking about sustainability in a way that amplifies the brand?
She would have heard about the retail science and the short design cycles.
And she could have completely reframed her pitch. She could have forgotten the cost savings and instead pitched it as a story about brand integrity. Let's be the sustainable leader. Let's tell our customers that when they shop here, they're part of the solution.
Now that's a pitch a marketing VP might actually listen to.
Because it aligns with what he cares about. But you can only discover that alignment if you shut up about your spreadsheet and start listening to their world.
That's a really tough lesson. Just being right on the merits is not enough. You have to be right in the right context.
Because you have to be clicked in.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, but let's get tactical. Because when I'm in a tense situation, my brain just wants to talk. It's a defense mechanism. How do I physically make myself shut up and listen?
There are a few concrete tools in the sources. The first one is from Deval Patrick, and he calls it the power of the pause.
He's the former governor of Massachusetts, right?
Yes, and now a big deal in finance. He talks about that exact urge to fill the silence. His advice is simple. When you ask a question, especially a tough one, force yourself to wait just a beat or two longer than feels natural.
So like count to 3 in your head.
Pretty much. Because in that extra moment of silence, the other person's brain registers, oh, they're actually waiting for my answer. They're not going to interrupt me. They take a breath, and very often, that's when the real answer comes out. The thing they were hesitant to say.
Like the truth is a little shy. You have to create a really quiet, safe space for it to come forward.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And to keep that space quiet, you also have to manage the noise inside your own head. There's another technique for this from a guy named Simon Mulcahy. He calls it his background music.
Background music. What, is he humming to himself?
It's an internal mantra. While the other person is talking, he just has this phrase playing on a loop in his mind. Don't tell, ask questions. Don't tell, ask questions.
I need that on a Post-it note on my monitor. Because my internal monologue is usually, okay, that's a dumb point. Here's my counter argument. Oh, and I should add this fact. I'm going to sound so smart.
Right. Most of us aren't listening. We're reloading. We're just waiting for a gap so we can fire our next thought. Mulcahy's trick is to reframe your purpose. You have to convince yourself that the most brilliant insight in the room is trapped inside the other person's head. And your sole mission is to coax it out with good questions.
Okay, that reframing is really helpful. Now that brings us to what might be the most advanced level technique in all the research. The stuff from Tony Piazza.
Ah, yes. The master mediator.
This is a guy who gets called in to settle these impossible, high-stakes legal disputes where both sides just hate each other. Yeah. And his core technique, when I first read it, honestly, it sounded like something a 5-year-old would do. Verbatim mimicking.
It sounds like you're just mocking them, right? Stop copying me. Stop copying me.
Exactly. So how does this possibly work with, high-powered corporate lawyers?
Okay, let's try it. You be the angry CEO. You feel like your supplier completely screwed you over. I'll be Piazza. Go ahead. Let me have it.
All right. Let's see. Clears throat. Look, Tony, this is simple. They missed the delivery deadline by 3 months. 3 months. That cost me millions in lost revenue. I want every last dime, or I am walking away and suing them into oblivion.
Calmly matching the intensity.
Okay, so because they missed that deadline by a full 3 months, which cost you millions in revenue, you feel you need every last dime. And if you don't get it, you're prepared to walk away and sue them into oblivion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I said.
And you feel that suing them into oblivion is the only way to make up for those lost million.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go to court for 5 years. But they need to feel the pain. They need to understand what they did to my business.
Breaking character. Okay, stop. Did you feel what just happened?
That was really weird. When you repeated my own angry words back to me with my inflection, part of me expected to get defensive. But instead, I just felt seen. You felt heard. It's a neurological trick. By repeating it back verbatim, I proved to your brain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I received your message perfectly. I'm not arguing. I'm not judging. I get it.
And as soon as I felt that, I immediately softened my position. I went from suing them into oblivion to, I don't want to go to court.
That's the pivot point. Piazza builds that foundation of validation first. And only after he's done that does he make his move.
The pivot.
He'll say something like, okay, I completely understand why you feel that way. I just have a couple of questions, not to challenge you, so I'm clear.
That phrasing is so disarming. Just a couple of questions.
And then he'll quietly ask, if this does go to court for 5 years, what's the best case scenario for your legal fees? Or, while you're in court, what happens to your relationship with your other suppliers?
So he's gently forcing me to confront the downside of my own position.
But you're open to it because he already proved he's on your side. If he started the conversation by saying suing them is a bad idea, your walls would go straight up.
This is some next-level communication. But there's a warning attached to it too, right? What he calls the anti-playbook.
Crucially, he says this only works if it's genuine. If you walk in with a checklist thinking, okay, this is angry CEO archetype 3B, I will now deploy the mimicking tactic, you've already lost.
Why is that?
Because humans have incredibly sensitive authenticity detectors. If you're just running a script, you're not actually present, you're not listening, you're just processing them like a piece of data. You have to let go of your playbook and actually be curious.
This idea connects perfectly to something from Hal Barron, the head of R&D at GlaxoSmithKline, his concept of clearing the story.
Yes, this is so important. We all walk around with these pre-written narratives in our heads about other people. Oh, here comes Susan from finance. She's going to say no. It's Bob from marketing. He's going to have another crazy expensive idea.
So when Susan starts talking, I'm not really listening to Susan. I'm just filtering her words through my story of Susan saying no. I'm just looking for evidence that confirms my bias.
Barron's point is that true active listening requires you to consciously erase that story. You have to approach the conversation with the genuine admission of, I actually don't know what she's going to say this time.
That takes a lot of humility. And Barron argues this is the single hardest transition for successful people to make in their careers. The leap from being a star individual contributor to being a real leader.
It's the central identity crisis of the modern workplace.
Unpack that a little. What do you mean by identity crisis?
Well, think about how you get ahead early in your career. You succeed by being the one with the answers, by being the smartest person on the team, by raising your hand and saying, I have the solution. You get rewarded for transmitting.
Right. I fix the problem, I get the praise.
But then you get promoted to manager, and suddenly your old skills work against you. If you're still the one with all the answers, you're a micromanager. You're a bottleneck. Your job is no longer to be the smartest person in the room. Your job is to create an environment that makes everyone else smart.
So you have to go from being the answer giver to being the question asker.
And that can feel terrifying. It can feel like you're losing your value. If I'm not the one solving the problem, what am I even doing here? It takes a huge amount of confidence to lean back and say, that's a tough one. I don't know the answer. What do you all think?
That's the approach Guy Laliberté used, right? The founder of Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil is built on creative insanity. But even there, people are naturally risk-averse. The sources say that when an artist would pitch some wild, physics-defying idea, the immediate group instinct would be to shut it down. That's too dangerous. We don't have the budget.
And Laliberté's response was,
Okay, keep going. I'm not sure about it, but keep on going.
just keep going. He's not committing to it. He's just holding the space open for a little longer.
He's protecting the fragile new idea from the antibodies of the group. Nandan Nilekani, one of the founders of Infosys, has a similar mindset. He operates on the assumption that even if 95% of what someone is saying sounds like total nonsense,
There might be one little nugget of gold in that other 5%.
and his job as a leader is to be a patient prospector, hunting for that nugget, not to be a critic pointing out all the dirt.
I love that. Switching your identity from being a judge to being a gold panner.
But, and this is a really big but, You can't pan for any gold if people are afraid to even come to the river.
Which brings us to the whole idea of approachability. You can be the world's most zen, empathetic listener, but if you've built a fortress around yourself, it doesn't matter.
And the modern fortress isn't made of stone, it's digital.
It's the earbuds, the laptop screen, the phone.
If you're sitting in a common area at work, head down, headphones in, furiously tapping on your screen, what message are you transmitting to the world?
Go away. Do not bother me. My work is more important than you are.
Exactly. You are broadcasting closed. And that means you miss all the weak signals. You miss the junior employee who has a brilliant idea but is too intimidated to schedule a formal meeting. You miss the "by the way" comment that reveals a massive hidden problem.
It's not just about the tech, though. The source had that funny story about Nick Byton, the ASOS CEO, selling all his expensive suits.
This is a fantastic example of a leader developing self-awareness. So Baton loved fashion. He was known for wearing these beautiful tailored suits. He looked like $1,000,000.
But his employees at ASOS are young. They're selling fast fashion to millennials and Gen Z.
Right. His staff is dressed in hoodies and sneakers, and he had this epiphany that his suit wasn't just clothing, it was a uniform of separation. It was a silent visual barrier that screamed, "I am the boss in the corner office, you are the worker."
So he literally sold his suits.
Put them all on eBay. He started showing up to work in streetwear. Not because he was trying to be a cool dad, but because he wanted to consciously remove that silent barrier. He wanted to signal, I'm part of this tribe, not just its ruler.
General Stanley McChrystal had a similar realization, but it was about his own introversion.
McChrystal is such a fascinating case. We have this stereotype of a four-star general as this booming, cigar-chomping extrovert, but he's actually quite shy.
The man who commanded special forces in Iraq and Afghanistan is shy.
Deeply introverted. So his natural tendency when he entered a room was to not make a big scene, to just go to his desk or find a quiet spot. He wasn't being aloof, he was just managing his social energy.
But that's not how his soldiers interpreted it.
Not at all. They interpreted it as arrogance. The story they told themselves was, the general thinks he's too good to talk to us.
Wow, what a complete mismatch between intent and impact.
When he finally got that feedback, he was apparently horrified. So he had to consciously change his behavior. He would force himself to sit out in the open, away from his desk. He would proactively start conversations, even when it felt uncomfortable.
He had to physically engineer his own approachability.
Because he knew if he didn't, he wouldn't get the information he needed to make good decisions. He wouldn't get what Clay Christensen called passive data.
Okay, let's zero in on that term, passive data. Sounds very academic.
Christensen defined it as information that has no voice, no structure, and no champion. It's the unfiltered truth of a situation.
Give me a real-world example. What does passive data look like?
The classic example is the college campus. The architects designed the campus with these beautiful paved sidewalks going at perfect right angles. That's the official plan. That's the active data.
Okay.
But after a year, you look at the big grassy lawns, and what do you see?
You see the dirt paths worn into the grass where students actually walk, cutting the corners. The desire paths.
Those desire paths are pure passive data. No student ever filed a report saying this sidewalk is inefficient. They didn't form a committee, they just walked. The worn grass is a whisper of the truth about human behavior.
And if you're the campus planner and you only look at your official blueprints, you completely miss how the campus is actually being used.
100%. In a business context, passive data is the sigh a customer gives when they struggle to open your product's packaging. It's the way everyone in a meeting subtly tenses up when a particular executive walks in.
You can't capture that stuff in a survey.
You can't. You have to be there, and you have to be receptive. You have to be noticing. Peter Drucker had this wonderful line. He said, "Innovative opportunities do not come with the tempest, but with the rustling of the breeze."
The rustling of the breeze. And if you're in transmission mode, if you're the storm, you can't hear the breeze.
By the time you feel the hurricane, it's already too late.
So this all leads to the final piece of the puzzle. And it might be the hardest one for a lot of us. We've talked about silencing our voice, silencing our assumptions. Now we have to talk about silencing the world around us. We have to talk about solitude.
Yeah, perhaps the most undervalued and endangered resource in modern life.
We seem to be terrified of it, or at least we feel guilty about it. There was a statistic in the research from a study of over 1,000 CEOs that it actually floored me.
The time usage study.
They looked at how these CEOs spend their days. What was the average amount of time they spent on any single task before switching to something else?
5.3 minutes.
5.3 minutes. These are the people who are supposed to be steering these massive organizations, thinking about the 10-year strategy.
And their attention is shattered into confetti. Their days are just a series of microtasks. And you cannot have a profound strategic thought in a 5-minute window. It's impossible. It takes 10 minutes just to load the problem into your brain.
So why do we live like this? Why do they do this?
I think it boils down to what one source calls the guilt of thinking. There's this story about a senior executive at a huge European retail company that just says it all.
The story of the woman looking out the window.
Exactly. So she's in her office, which has glass walls. She's leaning back in her chair, not typing, not on the phone, just staring out the window. She's deep in thought about a really complex strategic problem,
So she's doing her most important work.
the highest value work she could possibly be doing. But her boss, the CEO, walks by. He stops, pokes his head in her door, and says, "What are you doing?"
And she tells him, I'm thinking.
And his response is, "And when will you start working?"
Ugh. That's soul-crushing.
It reveals the entire broken culture. To that CEO and to many of us, work is performative. It looks like movement. It looks like fingers on a keyboard or talking in a meeting. Thinking looks identical to doing nothing.
And because we're terrified of looking like we're doing nothing, we fill every spare second with busy work. We reply to emails instantly. We bounce from meeting to meeting. We're proving our productivity, but we're killing our effectiveness.
We're squeezing out any possibility of silence or deep thought.
So we have to consciously fight for it. We have to, as the sources say, engineer solitude.
We have to. And it's interesting to ask yourself, where do your best ideas actually come from? Is it sitting on your desk?
Almost never. For me, it's always in the shower or when I'm out for a run or driving.
Right. Places where your body is on autopilot, but your mind is free to wander. Places where you are cut off from the constant stream of input.
The research also talks about reading, deep reading, as a form of enforced silence. I'd never really thought of it that way.
It's a powerful idea. When you're truly engrossed in a book, not just scrolling headlines, but reading a dense book, it demands your full attention. It imposes silence. You can't be talking or checking your email. You have to surrender your consciousness to the author's argument.
And it's different from a conversation because you don't have to have an immediate reaction.
That's the key. It's what's called expectant learning. You can pause. You can reread a sentence that puzzles you. You can put the book down and stare at the wall for 5 minutes to really let an idea sink in.
Amazon famously built their whole senior meeting culture around this, right? The silent reading meetings.
Yes. Jeff Bezos banned PowerPoint presentations. He argued that bullet points are lazy. They let people hide weak thinking behind flashy graphics.
So instead of a presentation, what do?
Before any big decision, someone has to write a detailed 6-page narrative memo, a proper document with full sentences and a logical argument. And the first 30 minutes of the meeting are spent in total silence.
A half an hour of silence. In a meeting with a dozen executives.
Everyone just sits there and reads the memo. Think about how revolutionary that is. It forces everyone to engage with the actual idea, not with the charisma of the presenter. It's a corporate version of compose and wait.
It levels the playing field. It's not about who can talk the loudest. It's about whose ideas survive the silence.
Precisely.
And then, of course, there's the form of silence that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Meditation.
The big M word, yeah.
But the list of advocates here is staggering.
Yeah.
You've got Ed Catmull, the co-founder of Pixar, Mark Benioff, Ray Dalio, the hedge fund billionaire. These are not, new age gurus.
These are people operating at the absolute highest levels of performance. Catmull meditates for an hour every single day, and he goes on these 10-day silent retreats. No talking, no reading, nothing.
What is he trying to achieve with that?
He says it's about lowering attachments. When you're running a creative enterprise like Pixar, your head is filled with 1,000 competing dramas and anxieties. The script isn't working, that director's struggling, we're over budget.
It's the tempest that Drucker talked about.
It's a constant storm, and he says meditation is the practice of stepping out of the storm for a while. It doesn't make the problems go away, but it allows him to see them with more clarity and less emotional baggage.
There's that description of him in meetings where he'll ask a really big, difficult question and then just sit there in what's described as a huge silence.
He brings the practice into the room. He creates a vacuum with his own stillness, and he just waits for the truth to emerge and fill it.
And Benioff describes his practice as a kind of mental housekeeping. He goes through a list: gratitude, forgiveness, letting go of anxiety.
He's clearing out the clutter. His point is that if your mind is jammed with resentments about yesterday and anxieties about tomorrow, there's no bandwidth left to notice the subtle signals of today. You have to empty the cup before you can fill it with something new.
So this whole journey,
Mm.
it brings us right back to where we started, back to Sam Abel, the photographer.
Standing on a riverbank, waiting.
We've covered corporate strategy, neuroscience, negotiation tactics, but the fundamental principle doesn't change. It's always compose and wait.
Whether it's a photograph or a business plan or just a difficult conversation with someone you care about. The first step is to create the right conditions, to build the background.
You have to stop chasing, stop transmitting your own agenda.
You compose the frame, you silence your voice, you silence your assumptions, you silence the physical and digital barriers around you, you silence the noise in your own head.
And then you do the hardest part.
You wait.
And waiting feels unproductive. Feels like you're falling behind.
It feels like you're ceding control, but all of this research suggests it's the only way to gain real control. It's the only way that the truly unexpected, the brilliant insight, the flash of brilliance, has a space to enter the frame.
The sources talk about waiting for a rogue wave. You can't create a rogue wave. You can't put it on your calendar. All you can do is be in the water, on your board, watching the horizon, ready for it when it comes.
So maybe that's the final question for you listening to this.
What's the rogue wave of insight that you might be missing?
What's the quiet solution, the unspoken concern, the breakthrough idea that's trying to reach you, but it can't get through the noise of your own transmission?
What would happen if, just once today, you tried it? In one meeting, one conversation, you ask a question, and then you just wait.
A beat or two longer than you're used to. Just see what happens when you endure the silence.
Let the rope come to you.
And see what walks into the frame.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll talk to you next time.